Good morning, everybody. I'm just going to start letting everybody in. I'm just a little bit early, so feel free to spend your next couple of minutes until everybody's in, and then I'll start the presentation. All right, while we wait for people to come, I am just going to put my talk up. And everybody let me know if you can see my notes or my actual proper PowerPoint. Perfect. Thanks, Joseph, for the thumbs up, and Mary, I appreciate it. Awesome. So I want to say thank you for everybody to come today to this talk. I don't really want to take a lot of your time up, but it's really nice time with just under a week before we get our applications in to have a chance to ask any questions and talk about things that really can help make a strong application. But before we move on, I want to let you guys know that I'm coming from the lands of the Yagara and Turnbull people today, which is where you can see the yellow star on the map there. And I think it's really important. I'm blessed to be a geologist who can work all over Queensland. And the sort of work that we do here at the survey and also through CEI, it really just works to deepen a shared understanding of country and earth. So it's really important for me that when we go out that we can try to do best by everybody, and through CEI we can enable this as well. So super quickly, what is CEI? I hope everybody here knows what it is, but just so you can understand where we're coming from as a survey and a government and what we're trying to achieve through this program. So it's a funding program that provides direct financial support for exploration activities across Queensland. So each round we have $5 million in place, and round 10 is currently the last round of the program in its current form. Each project can fund up to $250,000, and if you're an applicant trying to put in applications for more than one, it's up to $400,000 per applicant. We're really trying to answer vital geological questions and test new technologies and new ideas. Hopefully this is a chance for us to, help everybody in Queensland and really, increase our geological understanding. And what I'm hoping it does is it converts the risk of exploration into opportunity. I understand with a lot of the projects that are often funded by CEI, they're not your standard exploration that you currently do. And that often there's a lot more risk than there is reward, and we're trying to help you with this program. So for industry, what do we like to think are the benefits? One of the things that I have seen over the last couple of years is that CEI funding helps companies spread their budget across more projects because we reimburse you at the end of the year. Projects can also be fully funded via the CEI funding. But we know with the difference between eligible and ineligible costs that often the companies do bear a fair bit of the cost themselves. We're trying to de-risk exploration techniques for uptake by industry. If we can have this program try different technologies, different geochemical methods, different geophysical techniques in different areas, that the next time we do it, we understand that it's going to work in this region or potentially for this deposit. And one of the best things about the program in my eyes is that the reports and data are public up to 6 months of the project's completion. And then leading on to this, what are the benefits for the government? Why do we have this program? Well, from a geologist point of view, and speaking from a geological survey point of view, the sort of work that gets funded as part of CEI isn't the standard scale typical of what we do. We can't be collecting geophysical surveys over just a couple of tenements. We need to be collecting regional data sets to help the most people as we possibly can. For any of the data that comes in, if it's geophysical data, when it's made public, we can actually merge this into the statewide coverages of these particular technologies. So it's helping everybody. And also if we have samples, rock chips and drill cores, often they come down to us in Brisbane and we high log them, we might do geochronology. So we're constantly value adding to this information. So it's helping you guys who have just drilled this project, and it's also helping other people in the area. The knowledge gained from the CEI proposals actually can help us here at GSQ when we're trying to do our project planning for the next few years. So for anybody here, don't worry, it's all confidential. All the stuff in the proposals are not made public, but what we do is we kind of just do some anonymous stats. We say, oh, this year, 50% we're looking at ground IP, 20% potentially we're looking for like intrusion-related gold deposits. It's just important to know where and what people are doing across the state. And of course, we would love to find new areas or open up previously explored areas for exploration that turns into mining. But we understand as CEI that this can be a longer process because we're really, really early in the exploration phase. So where are we? Applications opened at the end of October, and the 1st of December at midnight is when the applications are closed. What we try to do is have all of the assessment and everything done by early March, which allows us to contact the successful applicants aiming for mid-March, with then all funding deeds signed on our end by the 1st of April. This gives everybody the best chance to make the most of the dry season. Once you guys get notification, you get a successful letter, which can happen anywhere between early to mid-March. You're able to make announcements on the ASX. You don't have to wait for the funding deeds to be signed by us. We need you to at least make sure that you have access finalised. So if you're working on a project now and you have CCAs that are in draft form, they need to be finalised by the 1st of September so that you guys can start your activity by the 1st of October. This year, we've decided to push out the final report, payment claim and data date to February because we're realising that anybody who's doing their activities in the end of November might be struggling to get their assays back from the lab over the Christmas break. So that means that 6 months from that date, which is the 2nd of August, everything goes live onto the Open Data Portal. And then a year later, it's submitting any of your samples, your rock chips and your drill cores to the department. So now I'm just going to go through eligibility because I know there's a lot of words in the guideline, and even sort of like stepping through this, we seem to find some very similar questions that have been asked constantly on the phone over the last couple of weeks. So hopefully we can answer them here. So the main things we're looking for eligibility is that you hold tenure in the state. You have to have EPM, MDL or mining lease. You have to have your land access agreements in place or you're working towards them with your draft CCA if you need that for the type of activity that you're applying for. You need to be compliant, and I'll touch on that a little bit later in the talk. You've got to have financial capability. So because costs are reimbursed at the completion of the project, we just need to know that you have the money upfront for this particular activity. So this is why we ask for a letter of financial assurance from your director. We don't need to know exactly how much is in your bank and how much you're planning to spend on all of your exploration in this financial year, but just to say, yes, we have the money to do the activity as per the proposal. Something that is also really important. We need to have public liability for a minimum of $20 million. You need to have an ABN and be registered for GST for us to be able to pay you. So a lot of questions that I've had so far the last couple of weeks is about having tenure and being an operator and a tenure holder. So these slides coming up are going to be very word heavy so that you can come back to them later if you have any questions. Essentially, who applies can be the tenure holder or it can be the operator of a joint venture over the area. When you get to the web form, there is the applicant. That can be the operator. As long as you mention the tenure holder as one of the associated entities in the web form, then it's totally fine, as long as you show evidence of this agreement. Can you apply if you are currently working on a tenure and these tenures are not currently transferred into your name as per the 1st of December? Yep, totally fine. If you want to just provide the evidence and make sure that you have all the different company names in the associated entities, we'll be able to link between who owns it and who is operating the tenure. Land access is quite tricky because often we ask to provide evidence now and we're in November, but people won't be doing their activity for, who knows, almost a year from now. So what do you need to provide for evidence of land access? If you are not doing any high impact activities, if you just want to send in previous copies of your notice of entry, that's perfect. Or if you're just starting to get on the ground on your tenure, evidence of discussions with the landholders. If you are looking to do more impactful activities, if you have a CCA in place or you're working on a draft CCA, just this last page of that, the sign page, is perfectly fine as evidence. What we really just are looking for, and you can talk about this in the technical proposal template under the section preparation and project management, is that just you're working on a relationship. So things are going to be in place, hopefully, by the time you go out next year to do this activity. Similar questions in regarding to native title engagement. So if you have an agreement with the local groups that you only need to do cultural heritage as per activity, totally great. Just mention that in your report. If you need to do an expiration activity notice for any activity on the tenure, feel free to show the last one that you've completed and then just mention that you are going to do this as per this timeline so that you can get everything ready to get on the ground next year. Being compliant is something that comes up a lot. So the GSQ doesn't work on compliance in regards to reporting ourselves. We have the mineral hubs that do this, but we want to make sure that the money that we're funding is going to companies that are in compliance. So what does this mean? Essentially, for CEI, we're looking for compliance not just for the tenure that you're applying on, but all the tenures held by that company across the state. Also for the applicant and any of its associated entities. So something that's really important if you want to do between now and applying next week is just to jump on My Minds Online and just double check that you don't have any outstanding reports, annual relinquishment reports and expenditure reports for any of your tenures to make sure that this is all up to date by the time you apply, because this is actually something that can stop you from being eligible for your proposal going any further in the assessment process over the Christmas break. To be compliant, you also need to have a valid EA in place for the tenures related to the CEI funding. If you are currently doing an amendment to the Environmental Authority, please just mention that and give the number in the proposal. That's perfectly fine. And then we also check to see if the native title fees have been paid and if there is a current native title agreement in place for the tenures. Often different tenures have different requirements, so this is only if it's relevant for you. Some other eligibility questions that we find is around public liability insurance being in the name of the parent company. This is totally fine. Just make sure you list the other companies in the web form so we can see how they're related. Why do we have to provide proof of contractor availability? And look, I get this because we're working next year, things can change. You might not even go potentially with the contractor that you've talked to now. But it's just so we can have confidence that things are starting to happen, you're starting to talk. with the people who could potentially do this type of work for you. Now, this is really important for geophysics because there's only so many contractors that do particular techniques. So they kind of almost have to be booked in advance. And I understand you're not going to know till April whether this is formalized and you've been successful, but a lot of these contractors are used to sending these letters. So just have a chat to them and just say, hey, actually, you know, if we're planning to go out in August, September next year, you can just be like, yep, we have availability for this drill rig or for this plane to do this then. That's just all we need. No formal contracts need to be signed or provided at this point. Questions about quotes. So if you've been working on the budget templates, you know that we let you have quoted costs or estimated costs. And this is because if you're currently out on the ground on a different project and you've been doing drilling or you're doing a similar type of technique that you're going to be applying for this CI, you can just give estimated quotes, estimated costs. Now, I just want to say we understand that, you know, things change, and if you want to put your cost in as an estimate as opposed to getting a quote, that's fine. But once we lock in the number, so if you apply for, say, $200,000 and you come back next year and then you get a quote and you find that it's actually, I don't know, 240,000, we're not actually able to increase the amount up to the 250. Once things are locked in the funding deed, that's the amount. So just make sure that your costs, if you're using estimates, are realistic, and potentially, you know, considering that things might be slightly more expensive next year, just so you guys are not caught out. And then a question that we had just recently about drilling. So often you may want to put in a deep drill hole as part of your application, and the costs for that hole far exceed what we are able to provide in co-contribution funding. But if you're doing that, we actually require the whole drill core to be submitted to us as part of the agreement. So I'm just going to go through really quickly what a successful application looks like. So we look at two parts of this. We look at the technical proposal and we look at the project potential. So this year, the only minor change we did for the application and the guidelines was that we just added more points to the part of the technical proposal that looks at the exploration technique and how this is justified, because we thought that this is such a crucial part of the proposal that it needs to be weighted accordingly. We also moved the critical minerals list that we previously had in there that was linked to the critical minerals as part of the MRA, which were part of the rent freeze, off the list. So actually now you can look for anything under the MRA that's not coal. Lots of words here, so this is hopefully for you to come back to, but what are we really looking for? We're looking for a well-justified exploration program. We want to see very clearly and concisely how this activity is going to test the target. How is this going to be achieved with your budget and the timeframes? We want to see things like Gantt charts impossible. We want to see the budget clearly spelled out. We want to see evidence of project management here. We also do wait on discussion of the exploration results from historical work, but we're not looking for pages and pages and pages of every EPM and every summary on everything, including every single technique and everything that's been done over the years. What we're really looking for is a really good, concise interpretation of the previous work that's been done, pulling out relevant techniques and relevant results that may sell your proposal and help with your idea. Or potentially say, you know, previously magnetics were done, but actually we think gravity is the thing that you need to look for this target. So it doesn't have to be all encompassing. It just needs to be pulling out the useful things and also show that you are aware of what's previously been done on your tenement. Also, what is really important is to discuss the work that your company has done on the ground since you've had it and how this is added to the new understanding and to this particular target and model that you're testing. Can't say this every year. Please, please, please make sure that your figures are legible and clear. Please make sure that they have coordinates. Please make sure that if you zoom in, you can read them. It is such a crucial part of this proposal to have the particular figures that show the exploration and show the geology, showing all this information. And it, you know, essentially hurts your application if they're not legible. This is something that is scored in the scorecard. So please, please, please make sure that your figures are nice and clear and readable. Something that we also look for and we score on is having a cross-section of your planned drilling or a cartoon essentially of the type of mineral system deposit being tested. So yes, I do understand that in some of these proposals, we're very early on, we're not so sure potentially what we're going to be targeting. We don't know what depth. Totally fine, but just show us, draw it, put it in there. I'd love to know potentially, oh, you think you're going to be hitting the target at 600 meters and it's going to look like this. You can take a cross-section of a similar type deposit. You can take a cartoon of that particular type of mineral system and then just stick the drill hole on there to the potential depth and just say, this is what we think we're going to intercept. It's really, really important to have this link to what you're writing and have the visual aspect in there. And as I mentioned, we removed the critical and strategic mineral list from the guidelines. So this means that no longer do you have to particularly frame your CE application pushing a particular mineral that may be critical or strategic on our existing list. Actually, we're more happy just to be exploring for what's there. So we figured if you're doing drilling, if you're doing geochemistry, if you're doing full multi-element suite, actually we're going to be picking up what is there. So we might as well go in as opposed to super focused on a particular thing. We just, let's just see what the results give us. Important though, that if you think you're looking for a deposit that could be gold, to mention things that could be potential byproducts, same with copper and lead and zinc, because obviously we know that there is associations of critical and strategic metals that can be secondary commodities or byproducts. So it'd be amiss to not mention them, but it is not as important in this process as it has been in previous years. So project potential. Hopefully this is in the summary about why GSQ does this, you can kind of understand, but really we're looking for in the section of the template, when you talk about this, why this is different. Why do you need the funding? Why is this type of program risky and different from the standard exploration program that you would normally fund with your own money? We want to know why this activity is different from previous exploration techniques. Are you looking at a new model in a previously explored area? Are you looking in an underexplored area just to see what's there? This is really important to mention. I want to know how the exploration that you guys have done on your tenures have led to a change in thinking, or maybe exploration that you've done and also maybe your neighbours or other people in the region, even potentially work that GSQ's done, or even more work on this type of deposit across the world has changed your thinking and why it's really important to be testing it through the CEI process. Please, please, please have clearly defined project outcomes. I want to know, how does this activity add to the knowledge gaps in the state and contribute overall to the body of exploration knowledge? Because one of the big things with CEI is not only what, it helps yourself and helps the applicant on your tenure, but really how we can help everybody. That's why the data is public. So in this section too, we also asked that how this activity will benefit the other explorers across the state. It could be as simple as, I propose to do a VTEM survey over this base metal deposit, and if it's successful and we can find it under this particular depth in this geology, then it helps other explorers in the region. Or it could be, if I drill here and I find this particular deposit, that opens up this region for a commodity or a mineral system that no one has thought of before. It doesn't have to be extensive, but you have to be thinking in this work how it's going to be helping everybody. So for the web form, I hope everybody's had a chance to have a look at it. I highly recommend having everything ready, named, labeled, ready to go in a folder for you just to drop and drag as you work through your application. Allow time to step through the web form. We've worked on this for the last couple of years. It's still a little bit clunky and does take time. We're trying to improve it every year, but just make sure you're not trying to do it at 11 p.m. on the 1st. Totally fine if you are, but that's probably not the best time to be looking at it for the first time. You can go in now and fill out the early information, so applicant details, contract details, the funding request, without having to actually upload your documentation, and you can save it and come back within 7 days. It sends an email to the email in the section called Lodges Details, so make sure if you're lodging this application, your contact details are there so you can get that email to make sure. And anything with an asterisk is a mandatory requirement. That's things around GST, public liability. You cannot proceed further without meeting the requirements. So please don't just tick yes to get through the form if you actually aren't registered for something like GST. There's enough time to get registered for GST now if you need to get it between now and applications being lodged. So if you need more information, please email me, give me a call, happy to chat. If you have questions about outstanding reports or anything in regards to that, the Mineral Hub, land access questions and native title questions can go to these emails on the screen. They are a lot more versed in all the different parts of the legislation and the forms and requirements. But yeah, feel free to send them a message. And honestly, if you're working on it and you apply on the 1st and you're still waiting for a particular response, just let us know and hopefully that can get sorted in the next couple of weeks. So that's all from me. Hopefully that helped you out. I noticed there is some questions already in the chat and I would love people to jump on. If you have a question, that code on the screen just takes you to the CI Round 10 web form page. So there's a question in the chat in regarding to accepting samples that contain asbestiform minerals. Yes, for sure. So we have a particular procedure for taking samples. For example, if you are drilling in an area also or taking samples with potential radioactive minerals as well, we have particular standards. As long as they are declared and we know what they are, we are able to take that material and hold it safely. So that is totally fine. Does anybody have any questions? Feel free just to unblock your microphone. Hopefully you can. Just going to stop sharing. If not, I appreciate everybody for coming in today. I'm just a phone call away, and that's the email, the GSQ inbox that you'll get myself or Angela or anybody else in the CGI team. Just shoot us a message. I know that, you might not have thought about it, and as you are finalising your application in the next few days, something could come up. Feel free just to give me a call. I'm more than happy to help. So thank you so much. Evelyn, do you still have your hands up?
Yeah, I just have one question about the cartoon or the graphic. So if the target is more of a bulk commodity than, say, a nickel or a copper deposit, we can still do a graphic for you, but obviously it's going to be a little bit different than what you described. I don't know if you've got any comments on that.
Totally fine. If you're looking for a bulk commodity, you're looking for how a particular mineral may respond in a particular situation, or you're looking, depending what it is. Yeah, as long as there's just some idea about what the technique is trying to find, and then just showing that in some sort of visual form. It could be more about the properties of the mineral.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe perhaps a cartoon showing, these are the minerals and this is what we don't want and this is what we do want, but it's not going to be the same as like a drill target. So
yeah, no, totally fine as well. And also, if it really doesn't apply for the sort of work that you're doing, it's not necessary. It's more that if you are doing something like drilling or where you can provide that information, then yeah, totally expect a cross section or a cartoon.
Awesome. That's really helpful, Courtney. We'll definitely make sure we put a couple of visuals in for you, but it might not be exactly what you've said in the guidelines because it's not relevant.
That is okay. That's all good. Okay, does anybody else have their hands up? Awesome. No worries. Thank you so much for coming. I'm going to send out the PowerPoint to everybody who registered and make the recording available as well. Good luck and feel free to get in touch between now and Monday. Thanks, everybody.